So I've actually got two stories that I think are worth hearing, and they're both related to each other. My name's David. I used to work late nights at a gas station / convenience store out in the middle of nowhere. This was forever ago, which I'm only mentioning because it was back before every establishment had state-of-the-art security systems and cameras covering every square inch of their property. It's not like security systems didn't exist, more so that it wasn't much of a priority. Plus, the owner was cheap. But anyway, I didn't care because the job was laughably easy. The most difficult part of working there was honestly the owner. He legitimately had the mind of a goldfish. We'd have the same two arguments multiple times a week. It was almost like this guy forgot what we argued about every time, because he'd constantly repeat himself and bring up things we'd already addressed. But whatever. Here's everything you need to know. Most nights, it was just me in there from 11 p.m. to 7 in the morning, and the place didn't see much traffic. That's about it. Anyway, one night, pretty sure it was during the week, I was doing what I always did, leaning against the counter with a magazine in hand, trying to prevent the boredom from putting me to sleep. It was really late. I don't remember exactly what time it was, since the store had the remarkable ability to blend all the ungodly hours of the night into one lump of misery. The store was dead silent. You know that faint buzzing noise those old fluorescent lights make? That was the only noise I had heard for hours, and my brain had gotten numb to it. Which I guess explains why I was so startled when the front door chimed. I looked up, and there was a man walking in. He was this tall, 30-something looking black guy with an above-average build. My first thought was ex-pro athlete, but then I looked at him a little more closely. Here's the thing, and I can't overstate how jarring this was. He was quite literally covered in blood, or I guess it could have been red paint, but I knew it wasn't. It was everywhere. There was a huge splatter across his chest, not to mention streaks on his arms and face. It was a cartoonish amount of blood, which is why my brain took so long to process it. It was one of those unique sights that paralyzes your brain for a few moments because it doesn't fit any familiar category of lived experience. But what really got me were his eyes. They were just empty. I don't know how else to describe them. There was nothing behind them. It legitimately looked like he was just walking into the gas station at 2 a.m. on any other night. He looked perfectly normal, relaxed, almost bored, like he didn't even know he was drenched in what was very clearly blood. I'm describing all this in vivid detail so my reaction makes sense. I don't want to come across as some pathetic loser. It was genuinely a terrifying situation. I was completely frozen. All I could do was stare at the guy, which was probably the last thing I wanted to be doing. I couldn't help myself. Every time I managed to look away, my gaze snapped right back to his eyes. He noticed, obviously. I mean, I was quite literally staring at him. I'm not sure what I was expecting him to do, but I definitely wasn't expecting him to smile at me. Then he said, calm as anything, "Don't worry, it's not my blood." As if that was supposed to make me feel any better. It didn't. My brain immediately started blaring emergency alarms. This guy is a murderer. He might have just killed someone. He might kill me. Those were the only thoughts running through my head, and I was freaking the hell out. But then my survival instincts kicked in. I started acting like everything was normal. I nodded at him like he'd commented on the weather and buried my head back in the magazine. I watched him walk through the aisles like nothing was wrong. He grabbed some random stuff and came up to pay. I was actually surprised he wasn't just going to steal the items. I probably would have. I rang him up, careful not to look him in the eyes. The nightmare was almost over. He paid in cash, didn't say anything else, and left. The door chimed. He was gone, just like that. The second I heard a car engine start somewhere in the parking lot, I grabbed the phone and called 911. I told them what I saw and tried to describe the guy as accurately as possible. I told them I didn't really know what had happened, but I was positive something had happened. The dispatcher was asking clarifying questions when everything went sideways. I was mid-sentence when the door chimed again. Great, another customer. That was the last thing I wanted to deal with. But I was wrong. It wasn't another customer. It was him, again, the guy I was in the middle of reporting to the police. He looked absolutely furious. I hung up the phone as fast as I could, but it was too late. He knew what I was doing. He must have seen me through the window. He stormed up to the counter, demanding to know if I'd called the cops. I denied it. He wasn't buying it, not even a little. Things escalated fast. He started yelling at me, telling me to mind my business, saying he knew I was lying. I put my hands up and didn't say anything, trying to defuse the situation, but there was nothing I could do. His voice got louder. Those empty eyes were suddenly filled with rage. At first, I thought he was just going to yell. I saw it a second too late. He didn't climb over the counter. He launched himself across it and tackled me to the ground before I could react. In 2 seconds flat, he went from screaming at me to strangling me. I was fighting for my life. I thought I was going to die. I'd never been in a physical altercation before that night, and I was certain this guy was trying to end my life. I thrashed around wildly, kicking, scratching, biting, just trying to survive. I could feel his blood, whoever's blood it was, smearing all over me. We were still rolling on the floor when I resorted to my final option. I screamed that I had a gun and wasn't afraid to use it. A complete bluff, but something about the way I said it must have worked, because he stopped. He scrambled off me and bolted for the door. I stayed on the ground in a painful haze as I heard his car speed out of the parking lot. I didn't get up right away. I just laid there, covered in a mix of my blood and someone else's. The police showed up maybe 10 minutes later, and when they saw the state I was in, they immediately left to try to track the guy down. I never heard from them again. Nothing on the news, nothing at all. That experience was by far the scariest physical thing that has ever happened to me.